Everybody, it's Mike McWilliams upstairs to the right music channel. I want to wish every one of you a happy Easter. I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for taking the time to tune in on your holiday time. I hope that you're having a good one out there. I certainly am. Whether you're watching this live or in the rerun, I want to let you know I do appreciate your time. It's so much appreciated that you would spend a little bit of it with me every time we do one of these live streams. Thank you so much. Um, well, I have had a very interesting week, I guess you could say. It's been a quiet one in terms of any kind of music things going through. I did solidify that deal with that 1980 Yamaha Studio Lord. Denro, greetings, man. I am so glad you're here. Welcome. I am so glad you're here. So I did finish up the deal on that one. So that's on its way, as well as a Fender 62 reissue bass. So it's a Fender Japan reissue, a 62 reissue bass. And Mickey, hey, welcome. A happy Easter to you both. I hope you're enjoying your Easter holiday so far. Yeah. Seamus O'Brien in the house. Hey, happy Easter again to you. Um, yeah, so I'm happy about that. I'm super stoked about the Yamaha. I always wanted to try out one of those Studio Lords, and especially a 1980, and so that's going to be sweet. The Fender Jazz Bass actually is kind of reminiscent for me. Michael Watson, Mr. Watson in the house. Man, I'm so glad you guys showed up. When I first turned, there was zero. Usually there was somebody waiting and nobody's. I was like, well, I guess everybody's having a good Easter. But you are all check-in bins in the house too. You guys had me worried there. Did I say something? Is it something I wore? I'm glad you guys showed up. It really is good to see everybody here on this Easter Sunday. Well, yeah, so I'm kind of stoked about that. The Fender bass is actually interesting to me too, because as you know, I had a Fender bass for many, many years and used it for my recordings up until the time I moved here. And so I'm kind of stoked about getting a chance to run that up against the Harley Benton. I've been trumpeting that the Harley Benton bass is just as good as the Fender bass that it replaced, which is also a made in Japan bass. But this time I'll actually get to do a head to head. So I'm looking forward to that. My camera, I haven't done any regular content for my channel for the last 2 weeks because, as you know, my camera broke on me. I did a little research on the internets, and basically, it's a common issue that happens with that camera after time. It has to do with the battery compartment and a spring inside of the battery compartment. And it's going to have to go to a repair shop. So I have a backup camera, so maybe I really should. I've been a little negligent in putting out things on my regular content wise. I will do that out. But I also have another camera that I ordered that should show up on Tuesday. So either way, we'll have something going here. But that's what happened with that. It wasn't the battery; it was actually a spring inside the battery compartment. Doesn't that suck? So that means now I have to send it off to get repaired to somebody, and God knows how much that's going to cost. But hopefully, this replacement camera will allow me to be able to retire the one that needs to go to the shop. I looked at it. I tried to fix it myself. I'm pretty handy, but I couldn't figure it out, and so off to the shop it goes. So yeah, just one of those things, which leads into the topic tonight. Is it worth starting a guitar channel on YouTube? I use that story as a segue to get into the topic at hand tonight. Um, well, first of all, really, honestly, I think that I've had a wonderful experience myself starting a YouTube channel. But there was during the pandemic period a and I've had a live stream conversation about this, what I call the third wave. First waivers are anywhere between 10 to 15 years they got started. The second waivers, like myself, and then the new waivers within underneath the last 5 years or so. And for me, it's been pretty cool journey. I have to say that I have no regrets about having a YouTube channel. I used to have a troll, when I was doing it first in Singapore. But that troll has gone away. Everybody, even in the comment section, when they don't agree with what I have to say, are very positive and very knowledgeable themselves, and I don't discount their opinions. Uh, as long as it's legible. But that's a separate set. But nothing really hostile. So I want to preface tonight's conversation with that. And again, it sparked off in my mind because of this camera situation. I bought this camera in order to. Can I get it? Actually, I'll show it to you. So this is the camera that I have used since I started YouTube. It's a Luminix, a Panasonic camera. And this is what I filmed every single solitary video that I've done, regular content wise, on my YouTube channel. And it was my initial investment, kind of thing, because of course, you can do it on. Well, back then, there are so many more video devices available now. I will say that much. So back then, if you really wanted to do it right, you wanted to get something a professional deal like this, which up until now, like I said, hasn't failed me. The problem, again, like I said, with this one is here in the battery compartment. There's a spring in there, and for some reason, it just stopped working. So there's that. But initial investments are one thing. I'm not going to deny that there is going to be an outlay. Most of the conversations on the forums regarding YouTubers, and we're going to get into that because that's actually what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the perception aspect of being a YouTuber. How are you perceived out there in the general public? Within your niche, because these are niche things. Like I said, there's a golf channel that discusses new golf bags, clubs, and carts. I'm sure, but in our little niche, we tend to really, how can I put this? Be a little critical sometimes, unfairly. And I started out also by stating that I haven't received a lot of negative kind of vibes, really, since I've had this channel for a number of years now. But it is out there and it does exist and it does occur from time to time. And I'm not going to say that I'm not going to get it in the future going forward. But I've been fortunate to have really great people that supported this channel. But so I preface everything with those statements. Let me see. Let me find my notes here. And um, one of the things that perception wise that you have to be aware of if you want to start a YouTube channel is how you come across. One of the wonderful things about starting a YouTube channel is finding your lane. Finding your lane. If you stick with it long enough, I always use that analogy. Everybody does. If you build it, they'll come, and it's true. If you build an interesting thing, people will come. Now, a lot of people try to cheat. They try to use bots and things in order to bump up their subscribers. Because, again, and I'm not getting into the financial issues too much, but in order to get paid, you have to have 1,000 subscribers. And if you do that honestly, without using bots, and they're getting much hipper at YouTube. So that still goes on, but it is something that you can't really use in order to get that first 1,000. You really have to dig and get that first 1,000. Every one of my subscribers that I have is one that I got. I don't have a great deal. It's growing. Again, by the end of this year, I hope to get to 5,000, and I think I can. I'm starting to really think that that's possible. But uh, it each and every one was hard earned. I don't go on social media. I don't do Instagram or any. I don't even do Rumble or any of the alternative things to YouTube. No, I've invested here because I think that this is a good place for what I want to do. I'm not a TikToker, and that's not a place that's for me, and I have no interest in it. Um, each one was gained by building and building and building. And now we are 390 some odd videos into this, and it feels great. But, however, I'm sorry, House Dome Funk, Music Collective and Productions, Happy Easter, Wister, and whatever is bester. Hey, welcome to you, and a happy Easter to you, sir. Thank you so much for showing up this evening. So glad to see you guys. It means a lot to me. Um, a lot of guys out there think that the YouTube has further spawned the corporatization of guitar, and it lacks soul. And a lot of the guys on the forum, when this subject comes up, of course, where do these guys get this wall full of guitars behind them? How's that possible? And there are, if you get to a certain point, that's something that can happen to you. You can start to get uh you know pay promotions. You can start to get things sent to you by manufacturers in order to review, and that can happen. I've turned down everyone that's come to me because of what I want to talk about tonight, about perception. Because perceptions is everything. you know Perception is everything. And you really, again, I talked about finding your own lane, but you want that lane to have a conscious to it. And I think people pick up on that, but I'll get into that. So the YouTube corporatization of guitar lacks soul. Now back in 1987, it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And you had Slash laid out with a bottle of whiskey next to him, a snake around his neck, a joint in his hand, and a girl, in the background in a bikini. And now it's a guy sitting at a computer with a wedding ring on, dressed up, you know, maybe in a shirt, maybe in a hardly the same image at all. And so that's why that image is a popular one that gets floated around. It's kind of a meme, actually. And a lot of cats out there think that YouTubers kind of were part of the process that killed rock in the first place, because there's no cool to it. They think that discussing what diode went on a clone is about as sexy as stamp collecting. Actually, stamp collecting might actually be more sexy. That's not rock and roll. What tubes did you use, or what speakers are you using? Again, I always present both sides of it. This is a tonight. This part of the discussion is this side of it. The guys who are just really not enamored with those who start YouTube channels. And is it worth it? The investment with cameras may break, so you got to have a second backup camera. Can you afford something like that? You don't really get paid a lot until it really starts getting moved. So it's just really investing your money and time. And there are a little bit of hostility out there in terms of in certain segments out there in terms to YouTube guitars. Again, like I said, there may be guys out there who hate the golf club channels. Like, damn it, they're ruining my golf game by giving away what club I'm using. But here in our little slice of heaven, um, YouTube music channels are viewed as having some sort of sneaky, glorified sales pitch to them. In general, in general. And guys, you really can't argue with that. If I were just to peruse the YouTube channels, hey guys, I got the brand new, such and such. Isn't it cool? Don't you want to get one? Buy one, get one. Remember that from South Park? Chimpokomon. You got to get one, buy one, get one. That commercial, yeah. So it does some channels really do come across as having this. Now when they say a sneaky glorified sales pitch, they mean it that it's in the guise of a gear review, I guess. And in some cases, and then when you start talking about, well, if you go down to my affiliate link and hit that, you you, you can, that's another reason why I don't do affiliate links either. Like I said, my affiliate link is to my Bandcamp, to my Asanoki albums, to my own product. But so it can come across as kind of a sneaky, glorified sales pitch. Mickey Newman. One of the best things about this channel, Mike, is the fact that you're not trying to sell us anything. As a matter of fact, Frank, I try to talk you guys out of things. I'm failing miserably in the sneaky, glorified sales pitch department. And the whole channel is transparent. Very rarely, yeah, man, because I'm old and much, you know. I just I'm not that old. I got to stop that. Again, the Joker said the mind makes an image. It makes things what it is. So I've got to stop that. But I do think that again, it's thinking about what your lane is. Thinking about what your lane is. You want to start you want to start a YouTube channel. Before anything else, I would really try to think about what a conscious lane you could drive, you know, that is adding something else to the conversation. And, that's a tough thing. It will evolve over time. You can start out going one way, and just like, I know a dollar for the tip jar, but just like in Star Wars, you can go to the light side of the force, or sometimes, man, you can drag off to the dark side. Because when you start getting those companies saying, hey, I'm going to send you, this pedal or this guitar or this, that, or the other, then you're going down that glorified sales pitch direction now, aren't you? Because you can't please two masters. We all know this. You can't please two masters. You either love the one and hate the other, or vice versa. And so, James, yo, what's happening? Happy Easter to you. Welcome. I'm glad you're in the house. We are all sitting down, chilling, having our beverages of preference, depending upon the morning, afternoon, or evening time. I'm having orange juice, interestingly enough, right now. I hit up the Easter market yesterday nearby, and bought some cakes and some fresh juices and stuff like that, and had a pretty good Easter. I have to say, it's been raining like hell here. It really has. Like seriously, I have. It's like I think I'm going to invest in a boat here in a minute. But it's been pleasant and just relaxing. I crashed last night early. I wanted to stay up and do some things, but I have been getting my rest, so I can't complain. I hope the same can be said to you guys. But that sleazy, glorified sales pitch avenue that you can go down, and you really don't want to do that. You don't want to do that, because that perception is out there of you anyway. Everybody's always looking at you sideways, you know, and even more so these days. You know, anyway, I won't. We'll get into that later. Now, I'm going to make a statement that's going to sound outrageous to you guys. Maybe some of you would dig it. But I don't think a young Jimmy Page would have made the cut on YouTube these days. Oh, what do you mean by that? What are you talking about? You're taking a 22-year-old Jimmy Page and you're saying he couldn't be successful as a YouTube guitar player? No, no, because again, it has to be perfection 100% all the time. And one of his things was that inherent sloppiness. Now, Eddie Van Halen hated it, but and spoke against it negatively. But it is one of the things that I like about Page is because he's just a hair behind it, and I like that. Sometimes the heroin had an effect on him in that regard, unfortunately, and the whiskey. But it has to be perfect, all the time. You know, camera rolling and make it perfect. Joe Bottom also talked about that. He said, "I don't know, man. It's one thing to show a picture perfect performance on YouTube. It's another thing to pull one off night after night after night live on the stage like I do. And I don't have the chance to do a retake." Downbeat is on. And I know how he feels because when I played live on stage, that was, over the years and decades, that was my feeling too. I was, but if you rehearsed and you practiced, then it was okay. But and then you can have fun. But there's a lot that's involved in that. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. You got Jimmy Page, so correct, Mr. Mike. Yeah, I know Uncle Jimmy very well. I admire him, as you can tell, but I am not going to be shy of his shortcomings as well. Now, when you start a YouTube guitar channel, 9 times out of 10, you have successful metal channels. You got some guys like Fish who kind of ride the line between metal and rock. By the way, he is one of the ones that they talked about with the glasses, clean haircut, and wedding ring. That they say is killing rock. The image of him is what's killing rock, um, which is funny because that's not. Well, I'll get into that in a minute. That's not true at all. Um, but if you focus on rock, you got to realize that rock isn't dead; it's retro. Now, I've come to that conclusion. I'm not going to say that rock is dead. I've built a case that they could show it's retro. Now, there's vampires like, well, we know who they are, who are feeding off that retro spirit of it. But rock is retro, therefore, that's again why it's niche in a niche. So again, when you start a YouTube channel, it could be funk. I could have easily have started a funk channel. I know how to play funk guitar, bass, drums. I think that's evident in my repertoire. But no, that's not what I love. So you're really going to go for what you love. And if it's rock, then you're dealing with a retro thing. And if you're dealing with a retro thing, then that means that you got to look at the composition of that audience. What's the age? So why are all these guys grousing on a guy like Fish? Well, because they're 40, 50 years old and they got sour grapes against this young guy who's doing it, on YouTube. That's the truth of that one. In my opinion, I may be wrong, but I doubt it. Uh, and but be aware of that. Again, we're talking about lanes. We're talking about lanes. You know, I think that really it's retro, and therefore, with it being retro, for me, I am conscious of that. And so, therefore, I want to talk about things that appeal to a retro seeking audience. Does that make sense? When you walk into, there was this, God, what was the name? Ruby Tuesdays. That's it. In LA, there was this 50s style diner called Ruby Tuesdays. I don't know if they exist anymore. Probably not. Probably didn't survive things, but it was a 50s style diner. And when I walked into that diner and I sat down, I wasn't expecting to get, Chinese food. I was expecting hamburgers and sodas and hot dogs and fries and onion rings and that kind of stuff. Hash browns, eggs, stuff like that. And so when somebody comes to the Upstairs to the Right music channel, I want them to sit down and in the menu, the vibe of it and the overall aesthetic lets you know what's on the menu. So you have to figure out what's on your menu. Now, today's YouTube guitarists aren't an evolution of earlier generation guitarists, but rather they're an evolution of earlier generation advertisers. Now, by the way, guys, some of these I'm quoting from guys on forums. These are not my musings. I pick and chose a few quotes because I want to address them as I go through this. This is what is being said. This is not my thoughts. This is what's being said out there. Today's YouTube guitarists aren't an evolution of earlier generation guitars, but rather a evolution of earlier generation advertisers. Again, you can't get past that stigma because a lot of channels, you know, bread and butter is on doing paid promotions and things like that. Because YouTube sure ain't paying. And so also again, like I said, the more stuff you bring in, the more stuff you can, pile on the wall behind you. Not in everybody's case. Some people that was their guitar collection before they even thought about doing YouTube. Me being one of those as well, but again, that's another cost, by the way, because you got to come up with stuff to talk about. But you better know your lane. Know your lane. If you're talking about stuff that's not really in your lane, then it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But that's again this statement about not being, descendants of the spirit of rock and roll, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. We'll say that again because I want to talk about that. Um, that is in opposition. The YouTube guitarist is in opposition to that. Essentially, it's just to sum that up. And so, what do you do with that? If you're starting a YouTube channel, again, like I said, you have to decide what lane you're going to go down. And if you're going to go down that path, that's okay. Because again, like I said, it's lucrative. I chose against it because I wanted to have guys like Mickey here say that I'm transparent. See, that means more to me than the money. I know that sounds funny to some people, but that means a lot more to me because that means that, well, that goes to character. That goes to character. And I'm not saying that if you're doing the promotional things, you got bad character and you're slimy and sleazy. But again, you can't serve two masters, can you? So you have to decide. And again, that's your lane. And either one of them is a viable lane. I've made my choice. I've made my bed, and I'm going to stick to it. But again, there is that perception out there that the majority of YouTube channels are trying to sell somebody something. Certainly, advertisers realize this. That's the reason why they started reaching out to you influencers in order to try to see what they could dig up there. Now, um, I talked about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And let me tell you a little something about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and the spirit of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and why I would do business with I would have a YouTube guitarist any day of the week over some of the bandmates that I had over the years playing live, because some of them were great guys, some of them were absolute complete druggies, some of them were absolute complete alcoholics, um, poo-tang hunters, to put it politely, for a PG rated conversation tonight, and ne'er do wells. James says, I love your channel. You always have great topics, Mike, and you're fair in your reviews of things. Again, like I said, I appreciate that. I want to be. And especially when I was playing in Japan, when I was grinding out in Japan. I don't want anybody to ever come to me and that was another criticism of YouTube channel guitarists and channels, is that, oh, what do these guys know about going out there and grinding, playing live, and they're just blues, dad rockers and blues and this is yada yada yada. And they bought a R9 custom shop with a new Marshall such and such, uh, just to play in his bedroom. And no, man, you're not throwing that one at me and a lot of other cats too. Anyway. Uh, Try saying that to a lot of these guys. It's not true. I used to grind it out night after night. And the worst ones, the druggy guys, actually, I knew a brilliant keyboardist. I thought I was good on keyboards to a certain point. But this guy was Greg Philligane's level. As a matter of fact, he even looked like Greg Philligane's a little bit, but he was an addict. And unfortunately, in Japan in the 1990s, you could get extremely high quality drugs. There was none of that cutting it with anything kind of stuff there. It was good stuff. And but when it came time to play, he was there and he was hitting his marks, and therefore nobody said anything, which I feel bad about because I should have as well by not saying anything. Well, he's doing his job, so I can't say anything. Is not a good thing. It's not being a real friend, and that's one of my regrets. But anyway, but then we had a guy who was drinking all the time, bass player, and showing up late to rehearsals, missing his cues. And I'm the keyboardist, so I'm looking to the rhythm section. So I just ignored him, and just me and the drummer just started working it out. But just pain in the ass. And then I told you the story of the time I'm at a club in Nagoya and I'm sitting in the back room playing Pinnacle with a bunch of guys, and we hear in the next room this dude in the band banging one of the bar girls. And let me tell you something: Japanese girls are not quiet. Okay, nah, not at all. And just like it's like, ugh, you know. So that spirit of rock and roll, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man, never appealed to me. And the cats that made it and that I know of that are continuing doing it to this day are the guys who didn't get caught up in any of those. Well, the rock part, but not the sex, the drugs, and and the drinking, and that's a fact. So, you can take your 1987 vision of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, with you, as far as I'm concerned, because I have lived it and I find nothing great about it. Especially when you got a guy high on cocaine who's your roommate in an apartment asking you if you were screwing his girlfriend. It's not a good situation to be in. A singer, the singer in the band. Like, you doing my girlfriend? She said you was looking at her. I was like, I ain't looking at that bitch. It's not a good situation to be in, okay? You do not want to be there. So there's that. Um, okay. So we've got a few to catch up on here. Siggy's in the house. Happy Easter. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Angus Orvid. I dealt with a lot of jerky musicians when I was playing in bands in the 1980s. Sunset Strip. Hey man, that's me in Los Angeles in the 1980s. Sunset Strip. Yeah, that's me. That's where I grew up. We, I know that scene very well, man. So many, and I miss it. I miss it dearly, man. So many absolute asshats. Yeah. Then I got a good program trio going in from 91 to 93. Ziggy Sauer. I play a custom shop in my bedroom, but I record here and there. Yeah, again, but if you're a YouTuber, we're talking about the YouTuber. Let's keep it. We're not talking about the consumer per se. We're talking about the YouTuber, guy who's out there putting it out there, and what the perceptions of that are. Love the tone of my room actually with small amp sounds used. Yeah, you've watched my small amps. Why I love my 1x12s. We booted a bassist because of his drug use. Yeah. We played the rocks and things were cool. Next gig, he was high as a kite, missing his marks. Yeah. I can't have that, man. Prince, God bless his rest of his soul, was the one who installed it into me about being a band leader. So that's the other thing. I was a band leader. I've always been a band leader. I've always been a band leader. And when I wasn't in the band. Let's put it that way. And he would fine his musicians 5, 25, $50, whatever, if they missed a cue or a mark. There's a recording of the Revolution recording, and he says to Dr. Fink, the keyboard player's Matt, that's 25 because he missed a cue. And so I took that to heart. And so that's how I dealt with Asanoki, but they were Japanese guys, so it wasn't a problem. As a matter of fact, I had to tighten myself up in that case. Angus, I was in music for the music, not for women, drugs, or everything else. I was kind of in it for the women a little bit, but again, sins of our youth. Jam bands and dead cover bands are big in my area, Buffalo here. Yeah, Siggy, Frederick Rogers. Hello, Mark Frederick. Welcome, sir. Mr. Rogers. I jam with the singer for Racer X. Cool, yeah, man. I've always had tons of respect for Prince's dedication to quality professionalism, his creativity. Yes, me too. So again, perceptions, guys. Again, we're talking about perceptions and in the perception of being a YouTuber. And if this is a path that you want to go down, this is something that you want to do, and can you manage perceptions? Can you really? Can you? It's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough because again, you're gonna get a whole lot of stuff is thrown at you. And there's that. Now, the attention span of folks these days is very small. It's it's almost non-existent, I would say, in some cases. And so there's that aspect of it too. Because when you do, like on my in regular content, um, you have to realize that after the 5 minute mark, you're going to get drop off. And so, but then again, at the same time, you don't want to have put yourself in a position where you're always just coming out with these short videos, because that does nothing for YouTube in terms of commercials. They wanted a 10-minute length at least, so they could stick in at least one or two commercials in there when you do get to that 1,000 mark. So again, that's the master that you have to serve in that regard. And I don't mind that, because I'm sorry that folks have not a lot of attention span these days. I think that lack of attention span is what killed rock and roll and made it retro, because of one of the reasons, because who's going to sit through the White Album these days? Who has the patience for that, especially if you're younger? They just don't, they don't do. Even my brother, who's older than me, he's going to turn 60 in May. And he always talks about, I'm running here, I'm running, this is, I'm running here, I don't have time for that, or just watch this video, it's, oh, it's a 5-minute video, it's too long. Attention spans amongst folks of all ages is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Who's going to sit through the White? I mean, you would miss that, because that was put together with sequence. There's something called album sequencing. It's when the band and the producers sit down and say, okay, how do we want this to flow as a cohesive part, and how we want to change the mood, and go from Revolution to Dear Prudence, how go through the ups and downs of that, how we want to program this. And that's a missing art too, because we lost that format, and as a result of losing that format, it's one of the things that contribute to the lack of attention. So it's chicken and egg, isn't it? 6 hour, just putting yourself out there is a hurdle all in itself. Yeah. Again, there's financial hurdles there, to be sure, at first. Um, Angus, they were music soldiers, total discipline. I respect that. Yeah, because it was a different industry then too. You're no longer, then you were doing promotions and tours, and you were really promoting that music project of that moment. And when the next music project came along, you again went out and did the promotional tour for that. That was the old business model. These days, the music is secondary. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Even when Beyonce puts out an album, actually, to tell you the truth, the music is secondary. It's the imagery and her audience, regardless, because it doesn't matter what she puts out. She has a core audience that are going to buy it either way, good, bad, or indifferent. It's about her. It's about the imagery. It's about the art, the person, and that's true up and down the line. So it's no longer really about the music. See, I count on this channel now. Really, it's got to the point where it's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a channel so that I could sell my music. So and then that would support the channel, and it would be an ongoing feeding thing. And so that was my ambition and my goal. And that was it wasn't, and I didn't worry about how many subscribers I had either, as long as I was faithful to that line, and kept that discipline of that. And so there is that. A little behind here, guys. Plus, YouTube is cracking down. Siki says on everything. It seems nowadays. Yeah, yeah. Because there's a lot. There's just a lot of things on YouTube now. Another thing is a criticism is that, well, if you're blonde and you got big boobs, then you're gonna get 100,000, and you got a guitar, hanging there. You're gonna get 100,000 subscribers, because there's a lot of simps out there. A lot of guys who are. It's a thirst trap, is what they call it. I love that word, thirst trap. I'm learning new vocabulary now that I've moved to the West. I didn't know what Tinder was. I didn't know what a thirst trap was. I'm learning new vocabulary since I've moved here to Europe. But that's unfair too. A lot of those girls, they can't help it that they were born pretty and that they are attractive and that they can play. What are you going to do? You know, the mother of them, if you really want to go back to that, is, oh God, what's her name? She's passed away, long passed away now. Come on, guys, help me out. Guitarist. Back in the day, she always had her boobs out and had the wild, crazy hair back in the 80s. God, I'm forgetting her name. It'll come to me. But she was the mother of that. And so that's always been around. So you can't really you can't really say that that's something either. So again, all these arguments against YouTubers and dick pics, but you know, do they really hold up under scrutiny over time? I would set up live sets by the keys and tempo songs we're in. If you play too many back-to-back songs in the same key, it becomes a long drone. Man, I sat down, not a criticism of the brother, but I was in a hookah shop in Shibuya in Tokyo, and they put on an R&B record from an artist Neo, and I swear I thought I was listening to the same song back to back. I really was. I was like, man, this stuff all sounds the same. There was no variation of anything there. So yeah, that's something. Beyonce, Swift, Gaga, they were industries, not some performers at their points about the show, not the concert of music. Yeah, but because of that influence, Angus, and how again, perceptions, the eye of a mind makes a movie, the Joker said. Again, I started out with that, and the perceptions is that's the new model, and again, it is, and it's up and down the line. I ignore the booby players and listen to real players, male and female. I don't care if they're pretty. I care if they can play, and if they're pretty, more power to them. Yeah, the booby players. Now you gotta admit it ain't exactly like they're wearing their grandma sweaters when they're doing that. They showing it off. They know what they're doing. And I said, if I could pull it off, y'all don't want to see that. You don't want to see me in a white beater t-shirt. I think it's gonna work. Like spraying mist on myself. No, it's not gonna work. So I gotta work a different angle. Again, I gotta find my lane. And I can't be mad at that lane. That's the other thing. Can't be mad about it. Lita Ford. Thank you. Lita Ford. Thank you. Thank you. Lita Ford. And so, what are you gonna do? Lita was doing it and doing it well back in the day. Doing it, really well. And nobody's ever gonna say Lita Ford can't play. I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't say it to her face. I tell you that much. um, Jennifer Bat. Well, yeah, that's Lita Ford was what I'm looking for, but let Jennifer do. Let's go there too. It's not a new thing. It was what I'm saying, and that again, that's a lane that a female can go down if she wants to. But then you got Mary Spender on the other hand, and you know what an elegant young woman, I have to say Mary is. I stop by and watch her content from time to time. What an elegant woman, and she's would be the opposite of that. You couldn't say that of her, and she'd be offended if you did, because that is not what it's about. And so there's all over the spectrum there as well. So no, but again, Mary found her lane. It's about finding your lane, your individual lane. Sex and rock and roll have always gone together. Yeah, because Again, sins of my youth. I take a lot of comfort in that particular Bible verse, "Sins of our youth be forgotten," because of course, well, I picked up guitar because of trying to get girls. Playing piano wasn't working. Guitar at that time worked, and so yeah, I'm not going to say that, but I wasn't crazy about it. I had a leader poster on my bedroom wall when I was 14. She was hot with her BC Rich. I know that poster. I know that one. I see it in my mind's eye. Greg Howard replaced Jennifer Batten on a Michael Jackson Asian tour years ago and had to wear a similar face mask with feathers and stuff, but he did it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Jennifer, man. She was hot. And, Michael brought in Jennifer. He brought in All I Want, Sheryl Crow. Sheryl Crow got her start with Michael Jackson. Yeah, a lot of cats. A lot of cats. He brought up. It's hard to carry a piano to a party. Exactly. You know. So, um, is it worth starting a guitar YouTube channel? Well, again, it all depends upon again why are you doing it. Be very clear about that, and also be aware of perceptions out there. Whenever I make a video, I'm always asking myself, is this coming across like a sales pitch on this? You know, does it sound like I'm trying to sell something here, which I really don't want to? Or as opposed to, I'm trying to strongly recommend this, or I'm strongly trying to not recommend this. That is the distinction that you have to make. And it's a hard, thin, tight rope to walk. And since there's hostility out there, and if people perceive that you're just another sales pitch, then you're not going to make it these days. Um, I met one of Michael's keyboard players at Simply Blues in '88. He said the Asian wing of the Bad Tour was a logistical disaster. I'm sure. I believe that, especially during that time period. You know, I thought Greg Philliganes played for a while there. As I seem to recall with Michael. I have an easy way of teaching guitar too. It's after 3 videos, you get everything. Yeah. Again, that if you're setting up a channel for guitar, there's even guys who criticize guitar channels. This guy says, "Oh, this guy is a guitar teacher, and he says a student brought this in and he wants to review it and talk about it, and I don't like the way he reviewed it." Or I don't like the fact that 90%, this guy said, 90% of guitar YouTubers, guitars are out of tune. I'm starting to think that maybe your hearing aid is out of tune, dude. It's like in the nitpicking. And is that something and to be aware of that? And you do become aware of that, and everybody slips up, you're grabbing the camera, you're setting up the lights, and you're like, okay, this is a good time. I've got an hour that I can sit down and do this. Let me, throw on something, put on my makeup, set everything up, plug everything in, set up the cameras. Again, do you really want to be a YouTuber? Because unless you've got a team, and you're not going to have a team at the number of subscribers that I have, even other, not you're not going to have a team. So set up your lights, setting up your camera, uh, getting things in focus, makeup. And that's even before you get into the instrument. Is it in tune when you sit down? And therefore you got to run through all that stuff. I think it's fantastic. I like it because again, I'm not playing live anymore, and I think that my recording days may be behind me. I think Asanoki 1 or 2 again are my swan song albums. you guys aren't familiar with it, on bandcamp.com, that's bandcamp.com, I have two albums, Asanoki 1 and 2. And I would like you to go check those out if you haven't. Support this channel by purchasing one, and it'd be greatly appreciated. But with those albums, really, anyway, I digress. I'm going in another direction. That's not to the topic at hand, but that was the basis for why I started a YouTube channel, so I could do that. Again, it's about lanes. Dewey's in the house. Hey, Dewey, how you doing? Welcome. Happy Easter to you. It's about perceptions again, and I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but really, again, you can't win. You can't win. You're in a tune, you're out of tune, or you got boobs or you don't have boobs. You don't play clean enough. When you do your demos, how come you're always playing distorted? Any fool could play distorted, play clean. Thank you, Dewey. I appreciate that. All the criticisms and Nick, if you look past that, and by the way, because you just got finished setting up the lights, like I just said, the camera that you purchased, to set up the lights that you purchased, to record the guitar and amps that you purchased, to later on have to edit yourself on the computer that you purchased with the editing software yourself that you purchased. You see where I'm going here? Financially, it is a lot to it to start one. But even putting that aside, you do all those things and somebody says to you, you weren't in tune. And you're like, you want to, you can't. You can't. You can't do that. Customer's always right. Well, yes, sir. Okay, I hear you. Next time I will try harder to make sure that I am. And you damn well make sure that you will be too. It'll stick. But you're doing it the point of it is you're not getting it's not when you start it up, you're not going to get a lot of sunshine and honey blowing up your keister. It's going to be pretty rough. But if you can endeavor through that, the rewards of having such a great group of folks like you guys are supporting me tonight, then it's worth it. If you can plow through it. At the end of that rainbow, there actually is a pot of gold, and it's not what you think it is. It's not fame and fortune and all those things. Those things come or go, on their own by chance. But the friendships and the quality of people that you meet, that you reach out to across the world, and the feeling of camaraderie and family that come about from that, man, that's the real thing that's of value here to me with YouTube. That's where the real value is. MTS Guitar 5150. Hey man, some of these guys that are out of tune are still making money. Yeah, again, in tune, out tune, whatever, they're doing their thing. But there's some guys and they're making their money, so they're like, I don't. You get to that point too, like, I don't care, just can it here. Let's do this. Let's get this out of the way, And you get to that point too where you don't care. You really need to always care in all things. I remember when I played clubs, they said we had 30 minutes from the time we started playing to the time we got off stage, which really meant we played for 25 minutes and broke it down into 5. Yeah, that's mine was 45-minute sets. 40 minutes is what that actually meant. And you did not exceed that mark in a Japanese club, or they'd send the Yakuza after you. And I'm not joking. So you adhere to a schedule. And if you don't, that'll learn you. That will learn you. So yeah, I'm hip to that. Again, like I said, I've played that, I've been there, I know that. So when I speak upon it, I speak upon it from a position of experience, and I don't want to be discounted just because I'm speaking about it on YouTube per se. I'm speaking about it on YouTube because I can reach more people and say, hey, you know what? Maybe you might want to look out for this, or if you go out and you're going to do this, look out for that on that aspect of it. Or hey, check this out. I did this and it was a great time. You should do it. Time, again, do it too. Again, I don't want to be discounted just because I'm saying it on YouTube. I don't want to be painted with a broad brush. And I don't think anybody would want that. I don't think anybody would appreciate that, male or female. So there's that. Now, so there that is. That's my thoughts on the topic. Uh, and I think if you're out there, and by the way, I'm seeing 17 people watching and 13 likes. If you guys haven't hit the like yet, hit the like button. If you're watching this in the rerun, don't forget to hit the like button as well. Do appreciate that. Those are my thoughts on that topic. I am pro YouTube. I'm not anti YouTube. I know sometimes they do things that are not great, but as a medium, in order to do what I want to do, it works out fantastic. Do you know Lucy Forbes and Rock Congress? I do not. I do not. Um, I will look that up though. I always, if somebody mentions something to me, bet your money you can ask around. I will look it up and get back to you on it. So yeah, I'll look it up. So anyway, guys, so I told you the story of this guitar. This is my 2003 Squire SE MTS guitar 5150. If I could get to the point where I make $100 a month, I'd be happy. Yeah, but you will. You just got to stick with it. Again, it really is about taking a lot of crap and seeing how much more crap you can take. She helped from Whitesnake in '87 under that lineup in the band Kingdom. God, Kingdom Come, I know. Whitesnake, I know. I'll take a look. But as you guys know, this is my 2003 Squire SE. Now, recently on Reverb, somebody tried to scam me out of this guitar. It's the first time that I've ever been scammed on Reverb before. She helped connect musicians. Okay. Again, Angus, I would take a look. Thank you so much for the information. I will do that. Somebody tried to scam me out of this guitar. And that was the first time that, and I couldn't believe it. Like, who would want to skate? This is really, I only have this up for about 200 euros or so, about what you would pay for something that in this condition anyway. And I really like this guitar a lot, but having that trouble and having somebody scam me out of it, it just made me think that maybe this would be better suited for doing something else that I've always wanted to do. We've talked about wood, and we've talked about just the absurdity of how the wood of the guitar affects the tone of the guitar. And I've always said primarily the tone is in the pickups. And since this guitar is causing so much just trouble with people, and again, like I said, I don't know who would be stupid enough to want to try to scam me out of this guitar. I can understand if it was Les Paul, but come on, is it worth it? So Fern and I talked about it, and what we're going to do, because it's a test, it's just it's a whatever guitar is. What we're going to do is we're going to saw, we're going to cut from here down to this. We can't cut over here because the electronics are there, but we're going to cut this whole section of this guitar off, and I'm going to film it where I'm playing it when it's whole, and then I will film it after we cut it, after we cut this horn off, this part off, and to see if there's any change in tone whatsoever. How did they scam you? I'll talk about that in a minute. Wouldn't the hardware electronics make the general tone of the amp? the player do the rest. Agreed. Everyone's guitar is different, bro. Yes, agree. Um, so yeah, we're going to cut this section off this guitar, and we're going to see if there's a tonal difference there. If there's any tonal difference with this part cut off, and I'll remind you guys, it's after midnight, so April Fools. If you think I'm cutting this guitar, you've got another thing coming to you. But I wanted to be the first to get my April Fools in. Yeah. Mike's flown off the cuckoo's nest this time, guys. We need to talk to him. Gotcha. I almost broke there for a minute when I was talking about cutting the side off. Oh, that's funny. Thank you guys so much. Uh, you'd have to stuff the tone back in if it pours out. That's right. Yeah, guys. Thank you so much for showing up tonight, and especially during the middle of your Easter holiday and listening to my rants and raves. Now, I filmed interview. Well, I did a I guess interview, a conversation with Three Chord Dave this last Friday. Dave and I sat down for an hour and we had a lovely conversation, and it will show up on his channel shortly, I'm sure. So keep an eye out for Three Chord Dave's channel. If you aren't familiar with Three Chord Dave's channel, I would like you to become familiar with it. I want you to go over there and take a look, and keep an eye out for that discussion that he and I had. It was a lot of fun. I had a good time doing it. It was a little bit different for me, being in that aspect of it, and I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and he's a great guy. And it was a pleasure to to be able to finally pull that off. So, cheers to him for reaching out to me on that. And when he does put it up, I want you guys to go over and check that out. So that's coming up. Again, I'm waiting for my new camera on Tuesday. I kind of want to use that to film something. I have an idea of what I want to do for my regular content. It's been too long. I need to put something up this week, so there will be something this week for sure. Between now and Friday, there will be something. Of course, we have the Wednesday hump coming up on Wednesday, so please tune in for that. Until then, you guys enjoy yourselves, enjoy your weekend, the rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you later. All right, guys. Bye bye.